Imagine giving up everything in your life, so your child could have the future you never did. Now imagine that same child looking you in the eyes years later and treating you like a stranger. That's exactly what happened to Linda. Linda never thought of herself as a remarkable woman. She wasn't wealthy. She wasn't glamorous. She was simply a mother. And for her, that was more than enough. Her life had been a storm since the day her husband walked out, leaving her with nothing but a 6-year-old boy clinging to her hand. Michael, her son, her world. At 29, Linda had to rebuild everything from scratch. She worked at a diner during the day, cleaning houses at night. The soles of her shoes wore thin from walking to work in the rain, but she never complained. Every coin she saved, every hour she worked, every tear she shed was for one reason only: Michael. One day, she whispered to herself in those lonely nights, "He'll thank me. He'll see all of this, and he'll be proud." Michael didn't grow up with toys from expensive stores. His birthday cakes were homemade, sometimes lopsided, sometimes burnt, but always baked with love. When his school trip came around and Linda didn't have the $50 for the bus, she sold her wedding ring, the last thing her husband had ever given her. And when Michael came home crying because kids teased him for his worn-out sneakers, Linda stitched them in the middle of the night so they would look brand new. She sacrificed everything: clothes, meals, sleep, even her own dreams. Her dream of opening a bakery? Packed away. Her dream of going back to school? Forgotten. Because dreams didn't matter when you were a mother. Years passed. Michael was bright, hardworking, and ambitious. He got into college, Linda's proudest day. She cried as she watched him step into his dorm, clutching secondhand suitcases she had saved 3 years to buy. "Don't worry about me, Mom," he said. "One day, I'll give you the life you deserve." Linda held on to those words like they were scripture. Michael graduated, got a job in finance, and within a few years, his life transformed. He wore crisp suits, drove shiny cars, and eventually married Emily, a woman from a wealthy, well-connected family. Linda felt a little out of place around Emily's family. They were polished, well-dressed, always speaking about vacations and investments. But she smiled through it all, proud that her son had built a life she could only have dreamed of. Linda's 55th birthday was approaching. Michael invited her to a grand party at his home. She wore her best dress, simple, a little faded, but ironed to perfection. She even bought a small necklace from a thrift shop so she wouldn't look out of place. When she arrived, the house was full. Emily's parents, cousins, friends. Laughter echoed through the rooms. Linda stood quietly in a corner, holding her small purse, trying not to feel invisible. Then the moment came. Michael stood up holding a glass. "I have a very special gift to give tonight," he said, his voice booming with pride. "To the woman who has been more of a mother to me than anyone could ask for." Linda's heart swelled. Tears blurred her vision. Finally, he's going to thank me. But then Michael turned. His eyes locked, not on Linda, but on Emily's mother. Outside, the headlights of a brand new luxury SUV flashed through the window. A shiny black car with a massive red bow on top. "This," Michael announced, "is for you, Mom." The crowd clapped. Emily's mother gasped dramatically, covering her mouth. Linda froze. Her smile faltered. Her son wasn't looking at her. He was looking at Emily's mother. The woman stood, hugging Michael, sobbing with gratitude. Cameras clicked. Guests cheered. And Linda? She just sat there, forgotten. Moments later, Michael walked up to Linda with a small envelope. Inside, there was a $20 gift card. "Happy birthday, Mom," he said casually, already looking elsewhere.
$20.
After everything, the laughter of the room faded into silence in Linda's ears. She stared at the gift card, her hands trembling. Did he really think this was enough? Did he even remember all the nights she skipped meals so he could eat? Did he remember the years she spent breaking her back just to make sure he had a future?
No.
In that moment, it was clear. To him, Linda wasn't a mother. She was just an afterthought. Linda sat silently through the rest of the evening. No one noticed her. No one asked her to join their photos. When she left, she placed the envelope on the table by the door. She didn't need it. At home, she sat at her empty kitchen table, staring at the walls that once held Michael's drawings. She whispered to herself, voice cracking, "I gave him my life, and he gave me $20. That night, Linda cried harder than she had in years. But when the tears dried, something inside her shifted. It wasn't anger. It wasn't sadness. It was resolve. For the first time, Linda realized she didn't have to wait for Michael's love. She didn't need his approval. She needed her own. The next morning, Linda made a decision that would change everything. She would no longer live as the forgotten mother in her son's shadow. She was going to take her life back. The morning sun peeked through Linda's thin curtains. Her eyes were swollen from crying, but her heart felt strangely calm. She had spent her whole life waiting for a husband who never returned, waiting for a son who forgot her, waiting for love, recognition, respect. And now she was done waiting. Linda looked at her small apartment, cluttered with memories, but empty of life. She grabbed 2 suitcases, folded her clothes, and for the first time in decades, packed for herself, not for anyone else. Before leaving, she slipped a small note under Michael's door. "You don't have to worry about me anymore. You never really did, Mom." And with that, she disappeared from his world. Linda moved to a small coastal town 2 hours away, a place where no one knew her name, where she wasn't just Michael's mother. At first, life was hard. She rented a single room above a bakery. She washed dishes for a few dollars, swept floors, and helped with deliveries. But one day, as she kneaded dough alongside the bakery owner, an old memory resurfaced, her dream of opening a bakery. A dream she had buried when Michael was little. For the first time in years, Linda smiled genuinely. Maybe her life wasn't over. Maybe it was just beginning. Months passed. Linda worked tirelessly, saving every penny. She experimented late at night, creating recipes her mother had taught her when she was a girl. The townsfolk noticed. Her bread was softer, her cakes richer, and her smile, warm and kind. Customers began asking, "When will you open your own shop?" Linda laughed it off at first, but deep down, a fire was burning. She took a leap of faith. With a small loan and the savings she had hidden for years, Linda rented a tiny storefront. She painted the walls herself, hung fairy lights in the windows. On the door, she placed a sign, Linda's Hearth. On opening day, Linda stood nervously behind the counter. Would anyone come? Within an hour, the shop filled. Smell of fresh bread drifted down the street. Children pressed their noses against a glass, pointing at the pastries. By noon, everything was sold out. For the first time in decades, Linda felt alive. Not as someone's mother, not as someone's forgotten wife, but as herself. Meanwhile, back in the city, Michael's life wasn't as perfect as it seemed. His business faced financial trouble. His flashy friends drifted away. Emily's family, once warm and supportive, grew distant when money got tight. Michael often tried calling his mother, but her number was disconnected. Her email bounced back. She had vanished. And though he never admitted it out loud, in the quiet of the night, guilt gnawed at him. 2 years passed. Linda's bakery wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. Travel magazines featured it. Tourists made detours just to taste her pies. Her life blossomed in ways she had never imagined. She had friends, laughter, independence. She even traveled for the first time, a small cruise she paid for with her own money. And every night, when she locked up the shop, she whispered, "I am enough." One chilly autumn morning, as Linda was arranging fresh loaves in the display, the doorbell chimed. She looked up and froze. Michael. He looked thinner, older, the arrogance gone from his face. He stood in the doorway like a lost child. "Mom," he whispered. The bakery fell silent. Customers glanced curiously, sensing the tension. Linda's hands shook, but her eyes were steady. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, with quiet strength, she asked, "What are you doing here, Michael?" Michael's voice cracked. I made a mistake. I treated you horribly. I don't know why I did it. Please, Mom, I need you. I've lost everything." The words hung heavy in the air. The same boy she had sacrificed everything for was standing there, finally broken. Linda felt tears threaten, but she blinked them away. She had spent too many years crying for him. She stepped closer, her voice calm but firm. "Michael, I gave you my whole life once. I starved so you could eat. I froze so you could be warm. I gave up every dream I had so you could chase yours. And when the time came to show me I mattered, you gave me $20. Michael bowed his head, ashamed. Linda continued, her voice steady, echoing through the bakery. "You showed me what I was worth to you. Now let me show you what I'm worth to myself." She gestured to the bustling bakery, the line of happy customers, the shelves of bread stamped with her name. "This is my life now, and I will never again let you take it from me." Michael reached out, desperate. "Please, Mom, just give me another chance." Linda shook her head gently. "No, Michael. I gave you every chance already, and I can forgive you, but I can't go back." With that, she turned to her customers and smiled warmly, as though nothing had happened. "Who's next?" she asked, and Michael walked out. For the first time, it was he who felt abandoned. Linda's story didn't end there, because what happened next would not only heal her, but inspire countless others. When Michael walked out of Linda's bakery, he carried with him a silence heavier than any words she could have spoken. Linda stood still for a moment, her hand resting on the counter. She wasn't angry. She wasn't even sad. What she felt was peace. For years, she had defined herself by how much love she gave, by how much she sacrificed, by how much others needed her.
But now,
she was defined by what she built, by what she became when no one else believed in her. And that was enough. Days turned into weeks. Linda's bakery grew even more popular. Locals loved not only her pastries, but her story. One day, a travel blogger wrote, "The woman who was abandoned by her own son but built a family out of strangers and flour." That article went viral. Soon, journalists came, eager to hear her story. Linda, hesitant at first, agreed, not to shame her son, but to show others like her that it was never too late to start over. And slowly, Linda's story became an anthem for anyone who had ever felt forgotten, overlooked, or unloved. Meanwhile, Michael's life unraveled further. His business went bankrupt. Emily left him, taking most of what they had built. For the first time in his life, Michael tasted the loneliness his mother had endured for decades. He drove past Linda's bakery once more, but never went inside. He couldn't. He wasn't ready to face the strength in her eyes. Linda's bakery wasn't just a shop anymore. It became a gathering place. She hired local teens, gave jobs to single mothers, and donated bread to shelters. One evening, a little girl tugged on Linda's apron. "Miss Linda," she said shyly, "I never had a grandma, but could you be mine?" Linda's heart swelled. She bent down, hugged the girl, and whispered, "Of course, sweetheart." And just like that, she realized something profound. Family isn't always blood. Sometimes, family is the people who see your worth, even when your own flesh and blood does not. And so, the woman who once believed her worth was no more than $20 discovered something priceless. That true revenge isn't anger. It isn't payback. It's living a life so full, so bright, and so unshakably your own, that those who doubted you have no choice but to watch in silence. Because sometimes the greatest gift you can give yourself is the life they never thought you could live.